This is Bub Pratt. He's the owner of Kukuau Studio in mostly sunny downtown Hilo, Hawaii. Could you tell me a little bit about yourself, Bub, and the studio?
Yeah, like you said, my name is Bub Pratt. I'm the curator here at Kukuau Studio. We started this place up about 8 years ago. This is the third all-encompassing mural. We got a website, kukuaustudio.com. You can go to all our links and stuff. And yeah, we got a YouTube page with, gosh, over 500 different videos on it. And
wow.
We're gonna.
I came by here on Monday, and it was jumping. The place was jumping.
For the Jazz Jam.
Yeah, tell me about the Jazz Jam and how that got started. It seems very popular locally, and you got a really good vibe going on. It was not an aggravated vibe. Tell me how you thought. Did you think of that up, and how did that whole thing get started?
I studied jazz in college, and always, hosted open mics and things like that, and have always hosted jazz jams, different kinds of jams at home and out in different places. And so this was like the flagship event when we first opened. And so I did a bunch of marketing for it, like Craigslist ads and Facebook and stuff for musicians who want to, be the nucleus for this weekly jazz jam that we're going to start. And so we started up like a little over 8 years ago, and we just celebrated our 352nd jazz jam. 8
years of jazz jams every Monday.
Minus like a year and a half for COVID.
Yeah, COVID shut down the jazz jam. Yeah. Yeah, you've got a really good vibe going. You don't want to mess with that. Open mics can be tricky. I've done them myself, and they're not easy to run. They look like a no-brainer.
And usually they lose money, and because you got a bunch of people who you can't pay really a cover for a bunch of amateur musicians to come up and play, and then at the same time, so then a lot of people will show up and just not pay the cover and bring their own drinks, and you know what I mean.
I think the trick is to charge the musicians that come to play, instead of, but then it's not an open mic.
Yeah, and then fewer musicians show up and stuff too. So it's a weird balance. So what was happening before, we had an open mic going for a long time, but the Jazz Jam was going so great then that it kind of paid for a lot of the other just community events that weren't really holding their own weight.
Yeah.
So, but now the Jazz Jam isn't quite, since we started back up a little over a year ago. We haven't really gotten back all the way up to what we were, before March of 2020.
So what I'm seeing is not capacity. You've been packed. I mean,
Yeah.
It seemed pretty nice. I mean,
oh yeah, it's great. It's starting to get there.
Good.
But we hold 180 people in here, real comfy.
Upstairs.
And between the dancers and all the musicians and everybody. Yeah. So there's this whole wraparound, L-shaped mezzanine.
Really cool. Really cool.
So a lot of this stuff was repurposed. Everything actually was repurposed from some other thing, and so. I mean, I never took out some big loan, to get this place started. Just kind of started picking away at it. I brought my students over here from this music store that I was teaching at a few blocks away, and
you were giving lessons over there? Or something?
Yeah, I was teaching guitar over there and ukulele and stuff, and then I had to leave that space, and so I found this space with the grace of God. It's so great. It's just been great ever since, really. A lot of work, but it's the first time I've ever, after this place kind of got up and going, it's actually the first time I've ever kind of thrived instead of struggled to survive. So that's a nice change up.
It's from the fruits of your labor, man, all the time and late night hours with a paintbrush or a screwdriver, hammer, whatever,
And the community really has been appreciating it, so they've been supporting it, so it's been great.
Sometimes with open mics you'll get this, when you first open up, people kind of rush to sign up, and when they get the prime spots, everyone wants that 7:30 shot. Do you ever get any kind of arguments about that, or people fighting over slots? Or
no, this space just exudes, ALOHA and just a collaborative spirit. So much that people tell me all the time, they walk in the door, they take 5 steps, they're like, oh, I feel so comfortable here. I feel like I can be my creative self.
So nobody, it's kind of collaborative. Nobody's fighting each other to get
Yeah,
the,
yeah.
That's
And everybody's
cool.
thinking about a bigger goal, and it's rarely ever like me first and the gimmies, you know.
That's refreshing.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
Yeah, so yeah, with the Jazz Jam, what we do, instead of writing people's names in to keep it organized, we write in the songs that we want to do. And so
okay,
each
okay.
person who wants to call a tune can, call one to three, maybe 4 tunes, and we call the song, they get up and lead the song, and then pick the key and the feel and stuff. And if it's one of the thousands of jazz standards that we have to choose from, we just go ahead and count it off and play it through. And most of the time it works out pretty good.
Yeah, it seems to. Yeah, it seems
Sometimes though, there's a little bit of a train wreck, especially if somebody's counting off who doesn't really know how to count off. Like this happened the other day. This guy
I saw that.
counted off quarter notes, and like, who counts off a jazz tune in quarter notes? I don't know. So I thought he was counting those quarter notes as 2 and 4, and it was like a nice little clip.
So you're playing double time.
Exactly, exactly. But then it's like the melody wasn't working, and I'm like, whoa, wait a second. Oh, my bad. I should have clarified.
Because a lot of these guys are working on computers at home with the metronome click, and I think that's the count instead of just a basic 2/4 count.
Yeah. So that's something I teach too when I teach here. I teach the kids how to like get their band going. 1, 2, 1, 2. Everybody's on the same page.
That's kind of important to get the thing rolling right. Otherwise, it's a train wreck before it left the station.
Right. Sometimes it's the train takes a little bit to get started, but it gets into a groove and stuff, and then we have fun with it.
Yeah. Do you ever get guys bringing in charts? Do you guys work with charts? Or you just,
Yeah.
Okay.
People will bring in charts, and if we don't have them in our books, then we'll bring in charts. And sometimes we veer from jazz a little bit here and there, but as long as they bring in a chart, or it's kind of something everybody knows, and we can improvise around it. That's the thing about that.
Yeah, you're more of a band leader than you are an open mic host. I mean, you're calling out key changes and stuff, and telling people when they're off, and so you're filling more than one pair of shoes there.
I'm also I'm hosting the Jazz Jam. I'm also playing in it, and I'm also helping make sure like all the chairs are rotating. If there's another drummer comes in, make sure, hey, let the drummer know, hey, there's this other drummer. You guys work out when you want to do the switcheroony. Pick which tune on the list you're going to do that on. And we'll take that time to let you guys do that. And that's what it's about. It's about having the rhythm section rotating, different horn players and singers and people calling their different tunes. And if you don't know the tune or can't hang with it or whatever, you just sit out and wait for the next one or whatever.
Yeah, it seemed pretty peaceful. People are not fighting to get on the drum kit or.
I've been to jazz jams in big cities before, and it is like cutthroat, competitive. If you're a new guy there, you got to show up there a bunch to even get on the stage. You're talking
about New York or something.
Seattle, whatever. And this is what I call this the most ALOHA jazz jam you'll ever attend.
If you could bottle that and sell it, man, you've got to. I like the concept you guys have. People don't sign up their names; they sign up a song, and then the musicians, just certain people, I guess, gravitate to that song. And how do they let you know that they want to play? How do you pick that? I mean, you've got different musicians in the audience that might want to get up there. Like for example, do you have a house drummer? Does he step off and let other drummers hop up there? And,
exactly. And because I'm worrying about all these other things, like, keeping things going, flowing. How's the bar doing?
Yeah, you're running.
Is there any crazy people walking in? Do I have to put anybody in a half Nelson? And
Frank Sinatra never did any of that stuff.
I don't know, man. I bet Frank Sinatra could throw a punch.
He would probably be pretty good at running a business.
But luckily it's never really come to fisticuffs. So, and then the house bass player kind of, pays attention to other bass players, and, piano player, same thing. And if there's, we can have like a couple of guitar players up here, but if there's already 2 guys that want to play guitar, I'll sit out, you know, and I didn't make this stage for me to have a venue to play music because no one else will hire me or whatever, you know what I mean? I play plenty of gigs.
It's not the me stage.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
great, man. That's great.
So,
I wanted to know if you're doing any other regular events. Is the studio space here available for parties and private events?
Oh, yeah.
Tell me, besides the open mic jazz, that's just on Mondays.
that's just on Monday.
Tell me about the space and how people can get that, or how that would
Well,
work.
yeah, we rent out the space. Right now it's, you know, only $350 to rent out the space. That's the base level. You know, if you need a projector, it's a little bit more. If you need some other stuff.
You have a projector and
yeah, the whole thing.
you have a screen or something
Yeah,
like that?
we have a couple of screens. We have like
really?
a classroom screen, and we have this big theater screen from the old Akibono Theater in Pahoa before it burnt down.
That's really cool. If people wanted to book you for a private party or event, how would they get in touch with you?
They can just email us, kukuaustudio@gmail.com. We also have a website, kukuaustudio.com. You know, you just type in KUKUSTUDIO, and that's the only thing on the planet with those 2 words put together. Actually, Kukuau, the word Kukuau, is indigenous to this neighborhood, but I decided on the name of the street.
Yeah, I saw that was the name of the street.
Yeah,
That's what
it's
I
the
thought
name
it
of the
was.
street, and it goes, geez, like 4 or 5 miles up Mauka.
It does. This street goes way up there?
Yeah, this street
Really?
weaves up there
So
into
it's an
neighborhoods
old,
and stuff.
an old Hilo street.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so I found 2 definitions of this word kukuau. One was thorny stump, but I don't think that's. Although it could be apropos. I'm a little bit thorny, but and then 2 was the village in downtown Hilo where everyone has ponds in their yard. I'm like, ponds in their yards? Why do they have ponds in their yards? And then I talked to this old uncle, and he says, oh yeah, when you're living at sea level, you know, real close to sea level, you could have a hole and it just fill up with water, right?
The tide would fill up.
Yeah, and it pretty much stayed the same, right? And then
Okay.
and it could so you'd have these your pond, and you'd have your fish in there, and you know, when the fishing was bad, you know, you needed something to eat, you just go in and grab one of those fishes, you know.
Wow.
And but it also doubled as a tsunami warning, because the tsunami would suck out all the water, right? And then they'd hear the sound of
The fish?
fish flapping in the bottom of their empty pond.
That would wake them up.
And they'd be like, whoa, yeah.
That's like the tsunami alert.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Besides the Jazz Jam, you also operate a recording studio, and you give vocal and guitar lessons here as well?
So yeah, the teaching thing was the first thing that happened here. And then
You brought people from the other place?
Yeah, I had about 15 or so students I brought over here. And they loved it. They loved watching it morph, and every week it was like, every week I come here and there's something new and stuff like that. They love like trying to point out the new thing, and they still do. It's really fun.
Your students? Yeah. Is that mainly guitar or voice, or a combination of both? Or?
I teach guitar. I teach all the fretted instruments except for banjo. You know, some bass, ukulele, you know, guitar, voice. Teach songwriting, composition, improvisation. I had this student who's learning the serenge. You know what the serenge is?
Is that African?
It's
Serenge.
No, it's
a rhythm?
Indian.
No, I don't know what that
It's a
is.
Hindi kind of bowed instrument, and it's kind of boxy, and it sits on your lap.
Okay, I've seen one
like
of those,
this. This lady, she wanted to learn how to play like blues and stuff on her serenge. I was like, and she couldn't play a scale like in tune.
Let's start with the basics, right?
I know, I'm like, I can't teach you this instrument.
That's
You
a
have to
challenge,
learn how to
yeah.
play it in tune first, and then come to me. And
She wanted to start up here.
yeah, and you know what? That happens a lot.
Yeah.
People, you know, just want to start running before they can even possibly walk. And so that's a hard conversation to have. You have to tell them, yeah, I know this is what you want to do, and I can help you get there, but this is there's like 10 steps that need to happen before you can get up to there. So, you know, and most of the times they listen to me. You know, I've been teaching guitar now for over 20 years. Actually, last year, Kukuau Studio won Music Instruction of the Year.
Oh, congratulations!
Award.
That's
yeah,
great,
thank you.
You started with the big room.
The big
this
room
was the,
here.
This was the practice room and teaching room.
And performance event space and stuff.
The space here opened up.
And when I moved in, like you couldn't walk upstairs without fear of falling through. You could see through the floor.
Was this a storage area or something?
It was just a storage area
Not
that
safe.
just like practically rotted through. Like I said, I asked a really heavy friend of mine to walk. I was standing back here and to walk across the deal. And I saw just like every step. I was like,
so you went through your phone list to see who's really big. Who's my biggest friend?
Yeah, right. This guy named Banjo Youngblood. He's pretty cool.
Banjo Youngblood?
Yeah.
I love him already, man.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
A big boy.
He's a good guy, yeah, right? And so, so I reinforced all that stuff. But there was this ukulele luthier that had this little room next door, and there's 2 front doors here.
Okay. Right.
And so when the luthier moved out, my landlord gave me first dibs on getting that space.
Oh, nice of him.
And I said, yeah, just give me a couple of days. And so I knew Kali'i, kind of, we were acquainted before.
Who's Kali'i?
He's the house engineer.
Oh, okay.
And I knew we were kind of acquainted before, and I knew he was an engineer and stuff, and we got along great. You know, every time we got together, it was like super good vibes, you know. And
that's important. Yeah, that's really the most important thing.
Most important thing.
You get along.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I set up a meeting with him, showed him the space. I'm like, dude, it's gonna cost this much. We'll just split it.
Okay.
And
that's what you needed the time for, to consult with him and see if
exactly
he was into it.
I'll pay half of the extra amount of rent that takes, and you pay the other half. So then Kali'i was on board. We moved in and we started doing that, and slowly started to just market the recording aspect. And I didn't know this at the time. Really, I knew he was just an engineer.
How did you guys meet? I mean, did you met?
Yeah, we had a mutual friend, and we'd met a few times just casually, and I knew he was an engineer, and so I asked him. I said, dude, I'm not gonna move into this joint unless I have a partner.
Yeah, it's too. You don't need that much space.
An engineer partner.
Yeah.
And we want to turn this into a recording studio aspect, like a control room, and be able to use both spaces. And he's like, I've been looking for a recording studio space in downtown for like 10 years, and nothing's really popped up, and this feels like it, so let's do it. So I'm like, let's do it. So we did it.
Great.
And
how long ago was that?
That was about 4 years ago now.
Oh man, yeah, he's in there working right now, isn't he?
Yeah, right. He's mastering some.
That's nice. You have separate rooms. You can work. You can do your thing out here. He can. Yeah, that's really nice.
Exactly. Yeah.
He's right. There's not a lot of stuff in downtown Hilo. It's not like there's a big warehouse district or something like in some big cities where you can just lofts are cheap. But here it's like there's nothing. There's like I've never seen anything like what you have here. So
Kali'i and I, we tag team that control room like crazy. So if he's not working on something, I'm usually working on something, or we're working on something together. So
you're getting your money's worth out of that expansion.
Yeah. Definitely.
Great.
Definitely have. Yeah. Dear brother, man, he's actually that relationship to me feels like my most healthy relationship on the planet, right now, because he's just so solid. And if he has a problem, he comes and tells me, I fix it. Do what I want. If I have a problem, I just tell him, he fixes it. We just, it's no big deal. No one's getting butthurt. No one's being
That's more
weird.
than a business partner. That's a friend, right?
Yeah, he's a dear brother.
Yeah,
so
that's great, man.
So and when we're working on a project together, it's super great. Like, because we have definitely different skill sets. I mean, he's like this master engineer, right? He's worked with Clive Davis. He's worked with Brian McKnight. He's worked with Justin Timberlake, lots of people you've heard of.
All those,
Yeah. And so his schedule used to be, for like 10 years, his schedule was in LA. He was bouncing from, you know, this day I'm doing a 12-hour session at Sony studio, at a Studio 3 in Sony, you know. This day I'm at Capitol for a 16-hour session, and who knows how much I'll sleep, and there's a little bed, and everybody takes turns using that, and it's like living on a submarine or something, you know what I mean? But, so that, he did that hard for like 10 years, and he'll probably tell you more about it, but it's not sustainable really for too many people, anybody really, and so he came here to do some healing and things. And
so you guys work on separate projects and then sometimes together, jointly?
Yeah, we work on separate projects, but it's about like a third. It's pretty even.
And how long have you guys been doing that together? Since he moved in here? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Before this space was built, this space was originally built as a Hatata bakery in 1930 something,
This
33.
whole building, this whole strip.
Yeah, these two buildings, they're kind of adjoined. And
Hatata Bakery.
Hatata
Old
Bakery.
Hilo Bakery.
And Japanese family bakery. And they were in business from like the 30s to the 70s. And so this was like the dough side. Wow. The next building over was like the baking ovens the size of Mack trucks, you know, shipping containers. And then the other side was the packing. And so they'd bring in the flour and stuff on this side, and now it's bread getting driven out the other side.
If you had a job here, that was a good job, and it was like a good gig. It seems like Hilo has such a history, and also not just a history, but an underbelly, kind of an unseen part of Hilo that the tourism industry doesn't really focus on. They show you the Queen's Gardens and the waterfalls, but living here as long as I have, I've seen such an underbelly to it that's just ignored. And tourists come here and they're like, they don't know what to do. Like, what is this place? And it kind of defies their imagination. They go up to the volcano. You know, they have lunch at Ken's and go up the volcano.
Right.
But this place is kind of got a lot of history to it, and you're kind of part of the underbelly, you know.
I am the underbelly. I'm the nightmare.
Yes, you are.
So, in both ways, you can think of that.
The nightmare. Do you ever do any kind of internships? Do you ever work with apprentices or anything like that?
All the time.
Other
Lots of mentoring.
Okay, tell me about that.
Sometimes I'll have a student, you know, who's doing the student thing, and you know, paying me to teach them, and then they'll want to hang out and like listen and while they sweep or something, and everyone knows this is a safe space, you know, and so.
You're talking mainly about musical apprenticeships now, are you?
Well, no, actually anything, just creative in general, because they'll be shadowing when, you know, hey, check, you know, help me storyboard this.
I see.
Or hey, make here's a flyer. I need you to make a flyer using this, and this, and this. Here's the picture, and here's the logo. Here's the QR code. Well. Here's the stuff. Make it look kind of like this and this and this. And then we just go back and forth on drafts, just like I would like a graphic designer that'd be paying or something.
Yeah.
We don't have a big budget here.
No.
You know, we don't have government grants. I call this place an unofficial nonprofit. We're just really a community space, and the community, you know, supports it and all the different ways they can. From like, sometimes I get people who want to say, hey, I want to help, you know, plant some stuff back here or outside, or hey, do you have a spot I can put a mural on, you know, or this mural that you see here has a list of like at least a dozen people who worked on it. This piece is called Village Vortex, because we are in the village here, and this is kind of, there's a mushroom village, and so we're kind of in this village vortex. And so the vortex was my idea, and the boombox was my idea. And I like to make, when I'm doing like a mural project, I like to make like a super easy, like paint by numbers type thing, and just get a bunch of people involved. And so that's what I did with these bits.
Nice that you have a walk-in boombox over here. That kind of was Did you think of that for the?
That's the old walk-in freezer that came out about the end of the stage.
Oh, it did.
And you'd have to walk into the refrigerator to go into that. And that's why I think the handle is still in one piece.
Perfect.
Because
perfect.
it was frozen for 40 years, you know.
Oh, really? Okay.
So, and fortunately, construction, like I said, was the family business, so I was able to do it all with a little help from my friends, you know.
You mentioned to me, I think it was that Andy Warhol had a place here once, and I've never heard that before. Was it Andy Warhol?
Andy Warhol, yeah.
That's-
He had a little studio here in downtown, and he was friends with this old guy. Well, he wasn't old then, but this old guy who rented an apartment in the same building. And he would come over here and talk story, and he started clubs and stuff like that. He was also a Pulitzer Prize-winning photographer for National Geographic.
Oh, not Geo.
And he died in his apartment over there a few years
The photographer.
back. Yeah.
Okay.
But so
Was
I
he
got,
working with Andy, or were they just friends?
They were just friends.
Okay.
Yeah. But I got a bunch of stuff from him, from his apartment that my landlord was going to throw away. He didn't really have any next of kin or anything like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I guess he had a huge stack of art magazines. And I remember him telling me, hey, do you want this stack of art magazines? I'm like, no, man, I can't really do anything with that. And he's like, okay, well, I'll do something with it. So I guess he made a bunch of collages out of the art magazines and put them on this foam board, and they were hidden, they were stacked up behind his little sofa up there, and my landlord gave me those, and I put those all up on the wall. And with single wall construction, you want to cover that stuff up as much as you can.
Yep.
But then he also gave me this box of
over here?
original.
On that wall?
Yeah, upstairs.
I saw that,
Upstairs,
yeah.
And so he also gave me this tote. He had this tote of like original photographs that he had. Like all this art stuff, maybe like some commercial stuff he'd worked on and things like that. And in this tote was was just a matted 8.5 by 11 photo of Andy Warhol sitting on the steps at his studio in this place by the Armory down there.
Wow.
Downtown.
What was he doing here? I mean,
It was his little getaway
he's
studio.
like Mr. New York guy.
Yeah,
I didn't know he ever left New York.
Yeah, I guess he did, because he had a little studio. It's probably a big studio. It's probably the dance studio. I think it kind of looked like
Oh,
that
really?
space over
Was he
there.
doing business here or just vacationing here to get out and to get away from the big city?
Well, I don't think Andy Warhol ever really stopped like working.
Yeah.
You know, he's like one of those guys,
Yeah.
you know. I'm not 100% sure, but
No, I
so
think
he
you're
just wanted a new change of scenery and had a little studio space here that he would come to, and when he wanted to get away from the city, I think is how the story went. And
in Little Hilo, who knew?
I know.
That's
Hilo.
not in any documentary I've ever heard. I've watched a lot about Andy Warhol, but never heard about him going to Hawaii. He's so pale-skinned, he doesn't think like he'd go out in the sun or...
Right, he had these big glasses on.
Or drink
and
a Mai
stuff,
Tai
and
or anything like that.
He's wearing like jeans and like a
Right.
jean
It's
jacket and
crazy.
like a light turtleneck, you know.
He never left the Greenwich Village.
Italian shoes, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But
So cool.
this is an original photo that this guy took.
Oh,
His
man.
name was Thomas Sabo was his art name. He was a graphic designer.
Okay.
And a photographer.
Right. I got you.
And so he did like a lot of their like marketing campaigns and things like that.
I get it. That makes sense.
So
Is that still a picture that you have access? You still have that?
I have
would
that.
love
Yeah,
to
I'm
see
hanging on to that.
man. Yeah.
I'd love to sell it. I think it could be an original photo of Andy Warhol on the steps of his studio in Hilo.
Any advice to new producers or engineers that wanted to open up their own studio? Anything that you'd like to maybe offer as advice to them, or anything that you wanted to talk about with that? There's a lot of guys coming into a very strange new music business, and it's changed a lot. I was wondering if you had any words of wisdom on that, or...
First thing is, when you're first starting, do as much as you can just for free. Like find artist, go to an open mic and find an artist that maybe they haven't recorded before or something. So you're all like learning together.
Right.
And say, hey, can I record your favorite song for you completely for free? I'll do my best work on it. And if you like it, great. If you don't, you didn't lose anything except for a little bit of time. That would be like the first thing. Second, of course, is gosh, you just got to know the crap out of whatever your DAW is.
Yeah.
And your DAW being like the platform that you use to record. All the shortcuts, work on making your workflow as efficient as possible so you can get the maximum amount done because you can only have your ears fresh for so long. And so if you're like having to listen to it too much before making the decisions that you need to make, you're gonna be draining your ears, and you have to come back to the project again. Wherein if you're really efficient, your ears last the same amount of time, but you get a lot more done that way. So
Yeah.
I've been working on that. That's a funny thing. I asked that same question to Clete. I said, Clete, man, we've been at it for about a year or two. I'm like, bro, is there anything you can think of that I can do better in the studio as like, with what we're doing and stuff?
Or you're offering advice from him
I'm asking him,
Yeah.
So I'm asking him, what can I do better? What can I improve on?
What'd he say?
And he said, I don't know, Bub, man, let me think about it. So a few days go by, and he says, Bub, remember that question you asked me about what you could do better in the studio? I'm like, yeah, what's your answer? He's like, you could be a better engineer. Like,
ouch, and thank you.
Yes.
May I have another, please, sir?
Exactly.
May I have another, please, sir?
Yes. So I really worked on being a better engineer. I'm a much better engineer than I was.
So your musicality was strong, coming from strings and voice and
jazz and
you needed to brush up your studio chops a little bit.
Exactly. And so,
well, I can see why you like it in this nice, big, airy, well-ventilated room as opposed to a dark, cave-like studio. That's where I spend most of my time, is in a cave.
And I'm more of a social type person.
Yeah, you are.
So
a little bit. Yeah.
So
there is a window. You guys cut a window so you get a little bit of daylight.
Yeah, we made that. Kali'i found that 2 pieces of glass that were the same size at the Restore, and I was like, yeah. And I designed the frame, and we made that. We framed it, and
perfect. You got to have a studio window if you call yourself a studio. It's like. Otherwise, you're just, what are you? Without the glass, you're not quite
control room.
You're a control room. Yeah.
But that's what we call it anyway. That's the control room. We do most of our recording in there, single tracking. If we do drums, we'll do them either in there. Sometimes we do them out here. Most times if we do live drums, we're usually plugging in the electric drum set so that we have control over it in post with the MIDI. We've done a handful of live records here too, with a band. We'll come in, we'll get them all sounding really good, and we'll have it set up as an event and have a live studio audience, and it's super fun. And I'll just go up at first and say, hey guys, thanks for coming out. Blah. We're doing this, as you know, this is a live recording, so make a bunch of racket between songs, but if you could try not to make a bunch of racket during the song, that'd be super great.
It's nice you have control over that. You've got your own little television studio here, basically, with a live studio audience,
Exactly, we could do that. So
that's fantastic.
I designed this place to be really malleable, to just be able to push everything around and make it a totally different vibe depending on what it needs to be. We can take those couches and bring them up to the stage and make it a super intimate vibe, like if we're doing a poetry slam, for example, or the open mic, because there's not going to be a lot of dancing, that kind of stuff. And we've done all kinds of, we've done TED Talks type things. We called them the Science Cafe, where I worked with a scientist at the university who's also kind of like the science department marketing person. And she put together these TED Talk things.
Wow.
And they were packed.
Really?
It was stinking beautiful, and I learned so much.
So mostly university people, or
different university people, telescope people.
Different crowd.
It'll be like 3, 4, 5 different disciplines. Is the word. Represented in one night, like from talking about like the latest stuff we are seeing in space, and then the next guy's talking about how the Kokies got here and what their different calls mean, and how to battle them and keep them off your property and things like that, and the things they hate, and it's just every bit of it was just so fascinating.
There's some super smart people in Hilo. That's what I've learned.
There's major mathematicians and scientists and things here, and who know things at levels that are hard to imagine would be even interesting to me, but I'm not that kind. I'm not wired that way. I'm wired to make art.
It seems like you're getting a really diverse group of people using this space. That must present. What were some of the more challenging situations you've come across? I'm also looking for advice that you have, people that can avoid maybe pitfalls or situations that you've had difficulty with such a diverse group of people coming through this space. Does any particular instance stick out as like, oh, that was a hard night, or?
A lot, many.
A lot.
But the ones that didn't get off the ground, even though, were the ones that maybe were a great idea, but they weren't really implementable. Like there was just not like a big market for that great idea, and so it's not gonna, the studio isn't gonna get reimbursed for the time that the studio needs to be able to pull that off, for example. Or I try to keep this. I always keep this place like family, oriented. So like we've never done like a burlesque show. Or anything about nudity, or the closest thing to like any kind of risque was for a long time we had a weekly the Hilo Artist Hui was here every week, and they would have live model drawing. Often they were nude, and it's a classic format.
It's pretty tasteful.
And people, I mean, they were always, and I've worked in lots of different studios where they did that too, more art studios.
A lot of people are going to see this space and maybe think about opening up some kind of a space, probably not in Hilo, but someplace in another city that they might want to open up something like this. Any advice that you could give to people that like what you've done and want to kind of do their own thing with a similar idea in their hometown?
You can't do it without some kind of team, okay? And you need and if your team isn't like big and versatile, you need to be big and versatile. You need to be able to have a lot of different skill sets. I was super blessed growing up with my dad being a residential designer and a contractor, that he always had a home office. He was always self-employed, and I would be like, I don't know, in the living room having a sandwich or something while I'm listening to him having meetings with his clients, and sometimes
at home.
And so these meetings would be mostly him gently telling them what they can afford to do, and them wanting to do all this stuff, but him having to scale it down to them because this is the budget, and if what you want to do is going to like increase the budget,
if you don't have the money, you can't do it.
So
lesson learned being don't think outside of your finances.
Exactly. That was just one example of it, or them thinking like, they want to do something, make changes last minute, and it's like, it's already up, it's going to cost, just negotiating, with the client. And then, although my mom was mostly a school bus driver growing up, she was always an artist, and we always did art projects and stuff. And she was a florist. I would go in and help her at the flower shop once in a while, especially when I was like suspended from school for fighting or something. And I'd work at the flower shop with her for $1
Maybe
an hour.
arranging some flowers will calm him down.
I was making arrangements and stuff, and learning that. But she was also a wedding coordinator.
Oh, right.
So basically like an event planner. Right? And so I was helping her always with these weddings. She would like get the caterer, get the cake, get the band or the DJ, secure the location, do all this stuff, get the dial everything in with the church, and all these boxes
lot
need
to
to be
do. Yeah,
checked
a lot to do.
to have an event go smoothly. And she made it look so easy, and I was constantly helping there, being drug around, and I didn't really know it at the time that I was going to be using that skill set that I was just learning just through osmosis. And so the combination between the project management with my dad, and then event coordinating,
Perfect.
and then me going to school and studying music, and being a performer.
Not to mention the construction skills.
Yeah, the construction stuff. Yeah, so all those things kind of play together. But right now, since we're kind of out of past the construction phase, it's mostly the event coordinating, project management, and the music bits, live performance bits. Just knowing how a stage works, knowing what a technical writer looks like, and be able to follow that up. And if you don't have 3 people doing that, then you need to be able to do 2 of those, or all of them, or something. That's would be my advice. Learn every aspect of
get some help.
What it is you want to do, and the parts you don't want to do, you got to find somebody to do them. I can kind of be a graphic designer, but I'm not really a graphic designer, so I always have a handful of graphic designers that I use.
Bring them in,
Or interns, figure out how to work with their skill sets, Like my last intern that I was telling you about, like I was trying to get her to mop and sweep. She can't. She just cannot mop. I tried to show her, she wouldn't do it. I try, I'm like,
it's not her wheelhouse.
Okay, I can, I can watch her mop this take all day to mop and sweep, or I can do it real quick while I get her on making a little 20-second video for a commercial. Okay, I'm going to utilize her skills that way. I could be the janitor, the door guy, the sound man, the bartender, the stage hand,
the MC,
even, and be producing the recording of it or something.
You kick everybody out at 9. Yeah, it's closed at 9. I kind of like that it wasn't. It's not a late night place where nothing nice happens after midnight. And I've worked in a lot of bars where it gets ugly.
Yeah.
And it's nice that people don't have to go home, but it kind of calms down at 9 p.m. I like that. And I'm out of here by 9:30, 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
It's much better to just ease out than to last call. Everybody's on the streets intoxicated. And that's where stuff gets ugly.
Right. When I first moved here, I moved into this spot. I kind of fought it a little bit. I wanted to go till 10,
Yeah.
But then I realized, one, the neighborhood doesn't like that.
No.
And 2, it wound up being actually a blessing.
9 is nice. 9 is really,
I can.
You can play a game of chess.
I can play a game of chess and be home by 10:30. That's been a blessing, because I look at some of my friends that own clubs, and they get old looking fast.
Yeah.
For a lot of different reasons. There's chemical reasons, but there's also a sleep reason, and I'm trying my best to get as much sleep as possible, but I suck at that.
Go studio. Oh wait, sorry.
Get out here where I can see it. Yeah. That's back, kind of right in there. Yeah, right. I'm focused on him, so that's safe space.
Soft slate. Ready.
You don't have to do it soft. Do it nice and loud. Any advice to? Let me ask you this way: it's interesting times for the music industry. Do you see new artists making any mistakes? Trying to break into the industry, musical artists, and is there any advice that you'd like to give them?
Well, one of the mistakes I see them make is that they don't take the time to really learn their instrument, or really study. They don't take the time to have mentors. They think they can just do everything themselves. Secondly, another thing I see is that they don't fully understand or appreciate how much work it takes for these people to be where they're at.
Yeah.
That is an intense, insane amount of work. You know how much Taylor Swift works? Dude, you know how much, all those people were constantly working. And as a hyper creative, that's what you have to be doing. You can't be, lollygagging around. I mean, yeah, a couple hours at the beach because you need a break or something, but you need to get back to work.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell people here. This place is not a hangout.
Right.
If you're going to be hanging out here, I'm going to put a broom in your hand, or you're going to get put to work somehow.
Right,
We're
or
not
come by on Monday night and enjoy yourself, but when we're working, we're working.
exactly
So, yeah.
when we're working, we're working, and we, of course, there's always time to relax, but you get done and you get back to work.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
a lot of these people think it's a really easy little thing because all they see is what's on the surface. But it's
Like their song's going to get discovered, and they're just going to be plucked out like the crane machine and dropped into stardom.
Right,
It's
right.
like no, the crane doesn't. There's no crane. And
no. It's you have to be that stuffed animal in the crane machine that like drags yourself out from
fight
all
down
of
the
the other
chute.
stuffed animals and claw your way into the little
into the
hole.
chute. Yeah, going down the chute. Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect,
that's how it is, and how you do that. I mean, one of the big ways you do that is by, of course, being really proficient, being able to do a first take, being able to and knowing what you want, being able to take constructive criticism and following through with that. Constantly honing your craft and getting better and never being stagnant. Listening to other artists, being aware of what's happening at the time, what's popular right now.
Yeah.
Where could this popular trajectory be going? Maybe I can meet it there. You know what I mean? There's lots of introspection, lots of, being critical of yourself and lots of editing. There's not one sound or one bit that comes in the studio that you hear in any record that isn't just massaged and juiced and all the sweetness is extracted from it, and you'll never because it's all editing, and you'll never hear anything that isn't hyper edited.
What new plans do you have for the future of the studio, and anything that you're excited about coming up?
Well, I'm working with a couple of different event production companies, and they use Kukuau Studio all the time for their like mid-size, level event, type thing that, that maybe like small, like intimate ones, I guess would be more like it, because there's 1,000-person venues, and there's like 300-400 person venues, and then there's like this 180-person venue here. So
this is nice.
There's that,
great
and then
size.
there's always room for improvement, and this place gets used and abused. More traffic all the time, and like there's this back area over there we kind of call the smoking area. It used to be the acoustic stage, but it kind of gets weathered and stuff, so it's
outdoors.
It's kind of outdoors, undercover, and
Plus, do you need
there's
two
holes in the
stages?
rove, and
Do you need two stages going on at the same time?
no, it wouldn't be the same time.
Okay,
I had built that spot because we were doing a big like all day event. Actually, I think it was the fourth birthday party for the studio, and so I had like 3 or 4 different bands playing, but then while the bands were swapping out and setting up, I used the other stage as an acoustic stage, and so people could just bang on their, like a solo singer-songwriter could bang on their guitar and not need a microphone or
Just an acoustic space.
so that was nice. And then so there's something going on there while we're doing the transition here, and then we do this thing here, and then
No, it's perfect. I appreciate this space. There's so few places to go, and not just in Hilo, but probably in most cities. It's either a bar or it's a restaurant, and you're going to go spend money on food and beverage. But there's so few spaces to go anymore where you can just hang out, whether you're spending a lot of money or not. You can go there with little or no money and chill out. Kind of a third space to go to. So I appreciate what you built here, and I can see by the people coming in the door, they appreciate it too. I think if you had a much bigger space, you'd lose some of the intimacy. I think 180 is perfect.
Well,
you know?
There's a couple of spaces I'm actually looking at
Mm-hmm.
that would be really great, and I would recreate this intimacy
Mm-hmm.
in those spaces. I could build. I would, let's say we got let's say a 4,000 square foot,
Okay.
big space. And let's say the stage is 30 feet wide.
A bigger stage. Yeah.
Yeah. And like maybe 15, 18 feet deep. I would still go ahead and build that mezzanine thing, kind of wrapping around it a little bit in a way, and then I'd set up all these little nooks and bits and
the details.
The design stuff is really I love doing that.
Oh man,
And
it makes it just
gosh,
so nice.
and if I had like a righteous budget, I could just make that stuff just.
Well, there's money out there, Bob. You just got to tap into it.
Yeah. So.
Well,
so
thank you
hope
for
we can
getting
do
this
some
started.
tapping.
You took it to this level. So
With
maybe
nothing.
Maybe somebody else is going to come along and get the idea and say, yeah, let's make this more of a Hawaiian thing, a statewide thing, or even a national thing.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
wanna
So
build.
there's all kinds of ideas like that floating around, but really we're just really trying to take it one day at a time and keep the calendar. Fullish and
bullish, not full, bullish.
full.
That's realistic. That's really
and
realistic.
have a life kind of. But
Plus, you're teaching kids. When I came in to set up, you had lessons going on, and her mom was waiting, and her brother's waiting for her sister to play her guitar lesson. And it's like, that's really, thank you, man. Thank you for creating this here. And it's definitely something that Hilo's needed for a while. I don't think there's ever been a place like this before.
Yeah, and you touch on something right there too, like something I discovered in college and a mentor told me this. He said, yeah, it's really weird when we were talking about this trumpet player in the band and such a crazy, intuitive, like amazing trumpet player, right? Like he had a gift. And my mentor could play trumpet and stuff too. And he's like, it's so crazy to watch him because he's making notes that are not the fingering for those notes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
His stuff's coming out that does not jive with the fingering.
Nobody knows that except another trumpet player.
Exactly.
It's three valves.
I would never know. I would never know. And he's like, this guy, you didn't even know. This guy it could be the best trumpet player, one of the best trumpet players ever, but it comes too easy to him.
Oh, wow.
And now this same guy, I jam with him once in a while when I'm on the mainland, but he's an art teacher in high school art teacher. Wow. And same is true like with my teaching. I've always been a teacher, and it's just one of those things that just kind of innately comes to me. And I think I tend to put it kind of a little bit more on the back burner because it comes so innately, it's like so easy. And I thought of my mentor's analogy with me in that regard. So teaching just comes easy. I love it, but I always every 5 years or so I need to take a nice long break from it. So.
Yeah. Thank you, Bub, for your time. I appreciate your time and telling me all about this place.
Happily. Thanks for your
thank
interest in Kukuau Studio and Kukuau loves you.
Thank you, man.